Hi, this is Dwayne, also known as Major Death. Join me 8 p.m. Central, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at twitch.tv/MajorDeath, and let's get better at Hearthstone together. But right now, it's time for Coin Concede.
Greetings.
Hello.
My greeting.
Well met.
I greet you.
Greetings, traveler.
Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 111 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. And my name is Kenny. I go by KCCO Gamer. Joining us from Gadgetzan, New York, we have Ridiculous Hat.
Hello.
Hello, and also from Karazhan, California, we have Bodicus.
Hey everyone.
And it's us again, the three amigos. So before we hit it off here, Coin Concede is supported in a large part by you, the listener. So if you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head over to patreon.com/Coin Concede. Shall we talk about ladder? I started off the last couple of weeks here, so I'm going to kick it off with Hat first.
So I am still on that priest grind, and I have, I think, 25-ish wins to go. I've switched. Rizaka's priest was really good for me up till about rank 5, and then it was really not good because the meta above rank 5 is very different and very not receptive to Rizaka's. There's a lot of decks that have the word big in them, and that means it's really bad for a deck that's meant to remove a bunch of wide, small things. Big priest and big druid are pretty difficult matchups, and it's just I found myself bouncing off the rank 5 floor a couple times. The Dragon Priest that I tried, it definitely wasn't as effective. There's a lot more aggro decks that I'm seeing, a lot more Zoos, a lot more aggro token druids. I thought Rizaka's would be good enough, so I switched over to Big Priest with Embrace and Circle. I'm still at the top of rank 5, not at the bottom of it. I'm going to stream actually after this show. I'm hoping that gets me closer to Legend. The real goal right now is hit Golden Priest and then probably play a bunch of aggro druid. But in the meantime, still grinding out that priest life.
Yes. Not fun bouncing off rank 5 floor there. But speaking of trying to shoot for legend, Bodicus, how's your legend climb?
Well, so I hit legend on Saturday. That was pretty sweet. Not my fastest legend, but still pretty good. I got there with my own version of Zulok. Well, kind of my own version, I guess. Basically, I just cut the Blood Cell Corsairs because I think they kind of suck, and put in Glacial Shards, and those are pretty sweet. And so I got there on Saturday, and I was actually streaming when I got there, which was kind of sweet. And then I kind of asked chat what they wanted me to play. Somebody wanted me to play a Dragon Priest, so I lost a couple times with that. And then I really wanted to play Quest Hunter, so I played 3 games of Quest Hunter and I won one of them. And I was like in the low 200s, and I was like, okay, that's great.
There you go, Esperoth.
Yeah.
Quest Hunter at Legend.
And that was good enough for me. But I noticed a trend that I was playing against a bunch of aggro decks, and then as soon as I hit Legend, I just ran into pretty much all Priest and
Big Druid.
And Big Druid and Jade Druid, and a little bit of aggro Druid. So I was tired of losing to all these slow decks and couldn't really figure out an aggro deck that was doing well against them. So I switched to Quest Mage, and Quest Mage has been crushing it for me. Me and Uncle Tony been hanging out. He's a cool dude. That's Archmage Antonidas for those of you who are unfamiliar. And so I was grinding with that and actually got up into top 100 for the first time. I was
Top 100?
I was blown away.
Was that on stream too?
No, that was
Oh, okay.
That was last night, I think, and I was kind of just I was shaking during the game because I was playing against Tempo Rogue, and that matchup is not great. But you just mulligan quest and kind of try to doomsayer them out of the game, and it was successful. I had a sick last turn where I did not have the combo, but I kind of had to go off, so I glyphed and did a bunch of stuff into the combo and was able to win that game. And so yeah, I think the meta is changing a little bit. It's weird now that just Saiyan hit rank 1 with Big Priest. I'm wondering if it's still going to be good to be on Quest Mage, but I'm going to kind of feel out what the rest of the ladder's like, and probably play some more this weekend, see if I can do better than rank 95. I'm like 120 right now, so we'll kind of see where we go from there. How about you, Kenny?
Oh, congratulations! First of all, that's really cool. Now we see everyone can. For those of you that are hitting rank 7 and you're shaking, like, oh, this is the highest I've ever gone. That we've met Bodikus's shaking moment in ladder. But yeah, so I hit rank 5 in Wild. I've been playing a lot of Rogue. I've been trying to play Tempo Rogue and Wild with like a different kind of deck. And just kind of bouncing around between 8 and 7 for a while. It was just not really going anywhere. So I was like, well, okay, let's play something that's going to be good. And I picked up pretty much Dude Paladin, the Wild set of Dude Paladin. It's with all the recruits, and that seemed to be working pretty well and got me pretty much straight up to 5 somewhat quickly. So I was happy to get there real quick. So I was like, well, I was like under 30 wins out from getting golden with my Rogue. And I was like, okay. So I started picking up Standard. And I was like, well, I'm going to play Standard because playing Tempo Rogue and Wild at that rank wasn't doing too much for me. I wasn't getting very far. So I started out at rank 20 and then just played Tempo Rogue. I don't think I lost a game until rank 14, I think. But yeah, I went on a crazy win streak and I got to rank 10 before I got to my 500 wins on Rogue. So I got both just today. So I started yesterday and then today I finished it. So no more Rogue, and I'm at rank 10. So I don't know if I'll be playing Standard much longer, but it was fun to kind of push out those wins and get those further along. So now I only have three classes I don't have golden, which would be Mage, Priest, and Druid. Druid's pretty much there. I think I'm just over 400, so I can start working on that.
Druid seems like a good one right now to be working on.
This is it's only good if you like aggro, mid-range, or control. So I would only play it if you like one of those 3.
Yeah, it's gonna be my next one for sure. And then it'll probably be Priest and then Mage, which is funny because Mage was probably everyone's beginning deck that they would play.
I hear a lot of people say that Hunter is like a lot of people's firsts. I think even though I only currently have 2 golden classes, I feel like Hunter will be my last.
I've always heard 3 classes as being people's last one. It's almost always Hunter, Priest, or Rogue. And Hunter and Priest have really different play styles that appeal to very different kinds of players. And Rogue is just a really intimidating class, so that's very frequently the last one.
Makes a lot of sense.
I feel like Hunter or Zoo are the first class, and I said Zoo, not Warlock, on purpose, because I think that that's a lot of people's first competitive deck, because it's relatively cheap to craft, or at least was. Now it plays Patches and Gul'dan, so I don't know if that's changed at all, but it's still definitely more affordable. A lot of the cards are classic.
Yeah,
not too many
cheap.
Not too many choices you have to make to play it too. So, I mean, it can be pretty.
Well, it's easy to play passively. It's extremely difficult to play optimally, but passively is usually good enough. Zoo has always been a deck about micro decisions, but also generally high power level and efficient, consistent strategy. So combination of those two means it's hard to play perfectly, but easy enough to play well enough.
I don't know. That's weird that you say it's full of micro decisions because on my climb, I played obviously a lot of Zoo. I pretty much played only Zoo from 5 to Legend. And it really felt like it was just like it felt like every matchup had a different game plan. The current Zoo has the, aggro game plan, try to kill him really quick. But then it also, against like Druid, you kind of develop more of a mid-range game plan so you don't play into their spreading plagues and you have all these cards that make your other cards bigger. And then against like Rogue, you almost play as a control deck because towards the end of the game, you start to run them out of resources and you both are down to only a couple cards, and the rogue player kind of goes, I'll play a card, and then you go, okay, I'll play a card and life tap, and then the rogue's like, oh crap, I'll play a card, and then you're like, I'll play 3 cards, your turn, and then you can kind of snowball the game from there. I found it I had a lot of discussions in a few discords about just different lines of play with Zoo. So I think that might be a good topic in the future, actually, developing like a game plan or something.
I think you proved the point about it being skill intensive at the highest level. I think that was the point there. It's because you can play, for newer players, it's easy enough to play 1 drop, 1 drop, 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, or whatever. But yeah, the Zoo in its current incarnation might even be more complicated than the old Nerubian Egg and Gang Boss Implosion Zoo, which was all about like minion placement mattered a huge amount. This is more like game planning matters a huge amount. So I guess the current Zoo is more about macro planning, but it's still extremely difficult to play optimally. And I think that discussion you just had proved it, that there's so many different ways to play it, and it definitely feels different than older Zoo because, well, it reminds me more of like the old Demon Zoo. If you ever played the Void Caller Zoo, for those that don't know, that was a Goblins versus Gnomes card, a 4-mana 3/4. When it died, you get a demon out of your hand into the battlefield. And it played very similar to the current Zoo in that it meant to curve up to higher plays, whereas
it had Mal'Ganis in it, right?
Yeah, Mal'Ganis. Sometimes you get that out on turn 4, sometimes you get that out on turn 9, and it was good on both. And so you would have.
You still see those in Wild, actually.
Yeah.
Some of those cards are still decent. So sorry to interrupt.
No, it's you're a part of this discussion, Kenny.
Well, I play so much Wild now that I like to kind of point out those things that maybe people don't play Wild too often. So it may be something fun to kind of dive into, to take a break from ladder on Standard, Yeah. So I'll try and make comments here and there. And I know we've gotten some feedback. Some people really like the comments I make about Wild. So
yeah, I'm considering a Wild month coming up soon. I know that actually the 1600 Dust Gang is big into it, and they were talking about it. I think it might be fun to dip our toes into it. And Wild is about 1 rotation away from being completely different from Standard, like in terms of the deck composition. Because I think once Mean Streets of Gadgetzan leaves Standard, that set is so incredibly powerful that we're going to see Wild really lean on it, while Standard can't anymore, and it should feel really wildly different. No pun intended, but I'll take credit for it. Yeah, I'm curious to see what it feels like after more cards come out and we lose a lot in Standard. The next rotation is going to be really impactful.
All right, great. I'm going to throw a little change out here and toss this next part to Hat here, because he has a couple announcements to make for the little, I don't know what you want to call them, raffles and events, things that we have going on with our community and us.
Yeah, we've got stuff. So Mike L. and Lucas S., thank you for your support of the show. I believe Lucas is our newest producer, right?
Yeah, he should be our newest producer.
Holy crap! Yeah, we're gonna bumper for this guy.
By the holy light!
Wow, gold and legendary!
We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Lucas, thank you so much. A new producer is something that very rarely happens, but you join the esteemed ranks of our squad, so thank you so much for your support of the show, and thank you everyone that contributes. We appreciate it every minute of every day. We actually have some. Oh, go ahead, Kenny.
Real quick, let me interject. I don't know who you are, and if you could please reach out to us so we can kind of start that a little bit. we'll get you involved a little bit quicker. So I know he wrote us an email. We weren't going to talk about it on the show, but he wrote us an email saying, hey, he wants to get started immediately. So contact us with your information, how we can best contact you, and I'll try and send an email and see if I could either you hear this or so
Yeah, and hang out in our Discord because we'll make you turn orange because
Yep.
legendary.
Yep.
And we have a couple raffles going on. So Reaper Cheap has donated his session. Thank you very much, Reaper Cheap. And that session is going to a raffle winner. To enter the raffle, you have to leave us an iTunes or Stitcher review. The review can say whatever you want. We ask that you make it honest. But if you leave a review, you're entered in the raffle. At the end of the month, then we pick a name, and that person gets a free coaching session. That can be on iTunes or Stitcher. And then Kick Punch is giving away his coaching session, and he's a big Thanksgiving fan. So in honor of Thanksgiving, there's no angry turkey, but there is an angry chicken. So what you have to do is send us a picture of the biggest angry chickens you can make. It has to be not in a friend challenge. You can't just challenge a friend and build up the crazy chicken. We recommend casual ladder. But whoever sends us a picture of the largest angry chicken will win a free coaching session. So get out there and start clucking.
And also,
Yep.
the chicken must be enraged.
Yes.
We will not accept docile chickens, only angry chickens.
Yes.
I miss the turkeys. There are too many turkeys, so we gotta have a chicken, right? Yeah, and also I was gonna add something in there too, but now I forgot. You made a comment there. Thanksgiving, no.
We're recording
we're
Tuesday
not.
next
Yeah.
week.
Yes, Tuesday next week. We'll probably talk about that later too. But we're going to be recording separate because of the holiday that's coming up. For those of you that aren't in the U.S. and don't celebrate, I'm sorry, but yeah, slight change. You may not celebrate it, but we do, so sorry. I was going to say, as far as the rules here, we were thinking, kind of mulling around with how would we do this. We do recommend casual ladder. We're not going to be so mean as to say you have to do it on ladder and sacrifice your rank there. So I hope you at least have fun in casual ladder to break up your ladder experience. Hey, we'll allow arena too if you want to do it in there. But
Sounds like
just
fun.
no French challenges.
Yeah.
All right, shall we go into the news?
Let's do it.
All right, so I already forgot what the name of the brawl was this week, but it gives a new KNC pack.
It's a sweet brawl. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't even remember. I did it when it first came out.
Treasure in the Catacombs.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us
So
about
this brawl, basically what happens at the start of the game is, well, you choose your class and it gives you kind of a pre-made deck, and I've played it a few times, and I think it kind of just gives you a bunch of random cards with some amount of legendaries, and you can get actually duplicate legendaries in your deck. But anyway, so the game starts, and above each player there is a quest that starts, and it's whenever any player plays a creature, it ticks the quest up, and it goes up until 7. And then once the 7th creature has been played, whoever played the 7th creature gets a treasure chest, the Marin treasure chest on their side, and it's an 08, and then on their opponent's side summons a 0/8 with 4 damage on it, so it's a 0/4. So you want to be the one that's playing the 7th minion, because then you get to, obviously the chest that you have to break is much smaller and much easier to break, and it's a lot of fun. I've already played it more than once, which goes to show you that it's actually not an actually good brawl, because otherwise I would just play one, get my pack, and be done. But this brawl actually gives you a Kobolds and Catacombs booster pack to be opened when the set comes out, and so that's pretty exciting.
Or annoying. Yeah, if you see that pack and you're like, oh, I need to open my pack, and you go, you're like, oh, I can't open it for like another month.
Yeah, the red one, it's so annoying.
It really depends on your patience level if this is a good thing or a bad thing until it's a good thing. But I'm gonna call it a good thing. I'd rather get a pack of the new set than a pack of classic.
That's true.
Yep.
I like it. It was actually pretty fun. I was worried playing against my opponent that they were going to get the 2 minions out to get the benefit of the treasure. I've only played. Going kind of reverting back to ladder, and I've only played against one person that's ever played Marin against me. And since I was playing Tempo Rogue, I just shadow stepped it back into my hand. I was like, nope, you can't
That's
play.
sweet.
Yeah, so I didn't play that for the rest of the game. I ended up losing, but yeah, it was still kind of funny to take it away.
You at
But,
least denied
alright.
them their toys, even if you didn't win.
I was like, you can't have fun if I'm not having fun. Alrighty, so the next part here, the next set of news here, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a Reddit post, and I couldn't remember if it was no, it was Ben Brode. That's right. So Ben Brode actually got to talk about the legendary card rule change, and talking about specifically Rend Blackhand. So Rend Blackhand is the legendary minion. I forget what the stats are, but his death rattle is to
No,
create
it's a battle
no,
cry.
it's not a death. It's in.
It's a 8-mana 8/4 battle cry. Destroy a legendary minion if you have a dragon in your hand.
There you go. So
I think that mana cost is right.
Yes, it's 8. It's that card is. I'm surprised this got figured out because I didn't know anyone was still playing Ren Blackhand. / I didn't know anyone ever played Ren Blackhand to begin with.
So the whole point of this was actually the fact that they changed something with this set. So and part of it was the change with Marin. So Marin actually goes, or not? Was it Marin? I think it was.
Yeah.
Marin
The
spawns.
treasure chest,
The chest is a
There you go, yeah.
legendary, but not a collectible legendary. So it doesn't have the silver dragon on top, and so they're changing Ren Blackhand to only kill collectible legendaries, and so I guess that's defined by the silver dragon card frame, which
it
I
used to
didn't
be
know.
defined by the gem, but they're changing it so that the non-collectible cards will not have the gem anymore. So that includes not just legendary cards, it includes like Spirit Wolves and the Mage from Spellbender and stuff like that. So
yeah, and so they were basing it off the gem before. Now they're going to base it off that. So pretty interesting. It's something that you wouldn't think about, but I'm glad they made the change. And
yeah, it's not super
actively thinking
relevant.
about it.
It's not super relevant now, but it could be relevant in the future depending on the cards that they print.
Before Rend Blackhand meta.
In Wild.
Yeah, if we ever get to Ren Blackhand versus Marin the Fox, I'm just gonna come back to this episode and ask what happened. But it'd be cool if this mattered, I suppose.
All right, and the next bit of news, Ad's gonna like this part. So, if you thought they weren't dead already, Death Knights are dead in Arena, and that became active this past week.
But wait, so you're saying Death Knights are dead?
They're dead again.
But
yes.
it's
Dead Tom's dead!
But Dead Tom's always been dead. That's why he's called Dead Tom.
Oh,
it's they can't die again. They're already dead. And yes,
Yeah.
I made that bumper just for this show. What's the problem?
Nothing. I like it.
Yeah, it's
I hope everyone else enjoyed it too.
to be fair, I think so. I didn't play a lot of Arena. I played a lot of Arena during the dual class because dual class arenas were amazingly fun. And I had 2 drafts in a row where I had Jaina, and every time I lost above 5 or 6 wins, it was to a Death Knight card. I'm not going to say they're unbeatable. I'm not going to say there's no way to play around them. I'm going to say it's an enormous power swing that rewards the luck of opening them, and you have to really draw super well to deal with them. I'm not an Arena expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's reasonable to remove cards that have this much swing potential. And Jaina in particular was super unfair every time I played her. It's I don't know. I have trouble being upset about this. I think Arena needs constant balancing in a different way than they treat Standard. And I mean, I personally wouldn't have a huge problem if they balance Standard a little bit every month, but Arena in particular, you can tell the outliers very quickly. And I have to imagine that the Death Knights were one of them.
Yeah, I think I'm happy with this change, but not for the same reason everybody else is. Because the reason I ever wanted to play Arena was so that I would open a Death Knight in Arena to be able to play it. So now that they're not in Arena, I don't have to worry about wanting to play Arena because I never really wanted to in the first place.
Nice. By the way, I think I went over to another. I think I was in EU, and I had 2 tickets. So I guess your tickets stay if you don't actually start a deck, right?
I think what
think-
happened was if you had a run already going when they first gave out the first thing of runs, it would end that run, give you a ticket, and then also give you the free ticket for that week.
The new one.
Yeah, I think that's probably how that happened because I think
That
that's
is
what
what happened,
with
yep.
my account too.
That's correct.
So you get your ticket back, and so it's like a free pack, but plus you get to make another deck.
Well,
Yes.
it's if the arena you had in process was good and you wanted to keep playing it, you didn't get to do that. So they refunded that arena, gave you the awards, the consolation prize, and then
wow.
gave you the free ticket that they gave everyone. So
Yep.
the correct play was take a deck and play it to 2 losses, and then collect the reward there. Because then you guarantee the highest reward you can get for it, and you get a free arena ticket as a bonus. Unless you get to like
Nice.
11-2 and you think you can win that last game, in which case you'd rather have the 12 win. But the value of playing it to 2 losses and letting it sit there until they roll the arena over was pretty high.
Yeah, I know Kata's saying that, bro. Confirmed that tickets don't expire, so
Yes.
pretty
So
cool.
you can use that forever.
Nice. I like it. So we're not really an arena play, but I like learning about it every now and then, especially when we have something fun to play. Bonicus, you want to cover the next part?
Sure. So the next release of cards is going to come out on 11/20, and they're actually going to have a stream with Peter Whalen and Brian Kibler. And hopefully Kibler does not burn one of the legendary weapons like he did with the Warlock
Death
Death
Knight.
Knight, if you remember the last stream. But should be exciting. I can't wait to get more cards because I love thinking about how the new cards are going to fit in, and we'll have even more to talk about next week. Are you guys going to catch the stream, you think?
If I don't catch it live, I'll go back and watch it for sure. And by the way, it's on Play Hearthstone's Twitch, so I'll have the link there too.
Yeah, I fully intend to catch it. Monday is my first day off in a week because Justice League is going to ruin my weekend at the movie theater. But it'll be a good Monday to wake up probably right around the time that stream is starting, which should be 11 a.m. Pacific, so about 2 p.m. Eastern. Or if you're in GMT, that's 7 p.m. Or if you're on AEST, that's 2 in the morning the next day. So, whatever time zone you're in. We have a very diverse set of patrons, so we get to learn all these different time zones. But yes, I'm looking forward to the Wibbler stream. And
The Whippler.
yeah, it's Peter Whalen and Brian Kibler. Whalen and Kibler is Wibbler. That's just how it is. So, also,
Are they a thing?
I just like saying Wibbler. I just want to say the word
Oh,
Wibbler.
okay.
So,
Okay, I won't read into it too much.
yes. So something to notice as well is that your favorite podcast will be talking about this cards the day after they air because we're airing the show next Tuesday, not next Wednesday, because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So you will get live up to the 24-hour impressions of what we think of these cards. So really excited to talk about that with Kenny and Bodicus, and maybe we'll get Cora if we can
That'd
get
be
her
great.
before she flies out to Shanghai. And yeah, we'll talk about the new cards, but there's just one really important thing to remember.
Take candle.
Don't touch the candle. Don't take the candle.
I think I can remember that.
Yes. Don't do it.
Is that from the ad that they came out with today for Kobolds and Catacombs?
No, there's a new
I
ad.
think that was from the trailer.
It is
I
from the
didn't see that.
trailer.
Wasn't there like a trailer ad or something that came out earlier? I'll find it.
I believe.
Link it in the chat.
It
here.
might be the same thing.
All right, so I'll cover the next part here then. So there's a really cool interview with Dean Ayala, and who was the other person? It was a
Becca Abel, who I believe is another designer on the game.
Gotcha. So, yeah, there was a pretty cool interview. They covered different things about the expansion, legendary weapons. They talked about Dragon Soul, that weapon. Anything you want to pick out of that from what you saw, Hat, with that interview? Oh,
I'll be honest with you, Kenny. I didn't read the article. I found it and I linked it, but I haven't read it. But Ixar, I know, is a very intelligent person and got his job by accidentally hitting rank 1 legend the first season that Hearthstone ladder existed. I am certain there's a lot of cool stuff in here and I want to read it. I'm not opening it now because otherwise I'll read it on stream and forget you guys are here.
Yeah, they talked about different cards, how they affect the weapons, and they get a little bit more in detail. And if you want to kind of get your mindset into the next set, a nice little read. Maybe not little. It goes into detail, but yeah, they talk a lot about visual clarity, recruits. They didn't want to overload players with complicated nature of the unidentified objects, which can be pretty complicated if you get really into it. But yeah, that's why they only limited it. So go check it out. I added the link. It's in the show notes. Let's cover Brodicus, do you want to say anything about it first? Did you read it? I think you're muted.
I did not have a chance to read it.
Oh, okay. We'll move on then. So arena leaderboards for dual class arenas was actually announced, and pretty interesting stats they got there. Did you recognize any of the names they threw up there?
So a good friend of mine he comes into my streams, he's got a plethora of different names. Riddly Diddly Doodly is my favorite of his, but he's Happy Feet. He hit number 69. So congrats to him. And also it's the best meme in the world for him. He's hit rank 69 legend and also now rank 69 in the dual class arena. So props to him. And Kibler hit 62. So, and by the way, number 52 won Sir Slim. We know that guy.
Go Sir Slim.
Woo!
And those of you who've gotten a chance to pick his brain for your coachings. Lots of people, man. I don't want to go through I'll get distracted just like you said. All right, so the next part here is you threw up what that link was, Bot? Is that what it is? The link for the
Yeah, I put that in the show notes. I tried to link it and it got deleted in the chat.
Oh yeah,
but
this is the trailer they released at BlizzCon.
That's the trailer.
Oh, okay. It seemed really short when I listened to it, so I thought it was different.
I think it's the same one. Yeah, it looks like the tweet that you linked is from November 3rd. So, yep, this is the one. It's a really nice trailer. The song is super fun and very Hearthstone-y. It reminds me a lot of League of Explorers, how they marketed it. It's very much an homage to like the fun of old school gaming and also the whimsical nature of Hearthstone. I know, Kenny, you had predicted a return to whimsy after kind of the dark Knights of the Frozen Throne, and they definitely got it right. And this is not related to a Warcraft property directly. They just made this up. There's no Kobold and Catacombs adventure in Warcraft, so I'm pretty excited for the thematic flavor.
It's like they mashed WoW and Diablo.
Yeah, or D&D is what this reminds me of. Like this is more of a
that too,
Warcraft,
especially
Dungeons
with how
Dragons.
he announced it at BlizzCon itself.
Yeah, he was basically DMing, right? Like, and basically it's like, which path do you want to go down? And the idea of walking into a dungeon and claiming loot and dealing with unknown challenges and all that. It feels very Dungeons and Dragons-y to me, which I'm all about getting that in my Hearthstone.
I think Team 5 knows their audience. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think I heard them describe it as, I'm going to get this wrong, but it was like clearly legally different, but it was very much an homage to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
They're like legally discernible, but basically an homage to Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, if you flip the name, right, it's if you made it Dragons and Dungeons and then change the dragons to kobolds and the dungeons to catacombs, like it's a different animal and a different type of cavern, but otherwise the same general concept.
Yeah.
So 1 + 1 = a candle. That's what I said.
But don't take the candle.
Don't take it.
I'll play the bumper again if I have to. Don't touch it.
No, but I'll let you play the next bumper.
All right.
And take it away.
It's the grand tournament!
All right. So Trinity series, are you all ready? Because I am about to go full Gadget Zan. Everybody else, mute your mics, pack your lunches, get ready. Because last week we had the shorter week. Trinity was playing later in the week and played earlier in the week this week. We actually have 2 more outstanding matches that we'll talk about on Tuesday that just finished today. Didn't have time to process those yet, but we've got 4 best of 11 matches to talk about. 2 of them from late last week, 2 of them from early this week, and boy, they are a doozy. You can find all of these. I actually want to give a shout out to Hearthstone Tournaments on YouTube. They have VODs of all of these that are accessible. And the matches here range between 2.5 to 4.5 hours for one series. So get ready, and we're going in. I'm going to start off with G2 versus Liquid. And this series right here is... The match starts off... So last year was standing as the format. It's best of 11. To remind you on the format, there are 3 players on a team. Each team brings 1 deck for each class. Their opponent bans 2 decks. They ban 2 decks their opponent. Then after those bans, they do another round where they ban 1 deck of their own. So Druid and Priest were not seen. Both were immediately double banned. You will not hear about any Druids or Priest while we're talking. And then most people ban their own Hunters. Not everybody, but most ban their own Hunters. So you'll notice there's a lot of Rogues, surprising amount of Mages, a good amount of Paladins, good amount of Warriors, and Warlocks as well. Occasionally a self-ban Hunter, or mostly a self-ban Hunter. There was, I think, only 1 team that didn't ban Hunter, and that was very much a targeted weapon. We'll talk about that later. So G2 versus Liquid starts off with G2 plays a Fatigue matchup. It's against Zoo, and both decks run out of cards. Blood River Gul'dan is barely enough for Show to hang on, but RDU makes a terrible mistake miscalculating fatigue damage when playing against Tice, and they Alexstrasza their opponent instead of waiting a turn and Alexstraszaing themselves. They throw the game from a guaranteed win to a guaranteed loss. There is no cards left in Eschau's deck. There's nothing that he can do other than take fatigue damage and use the hero power, but RDU miscalculates the fatigue damage and they throw a known winning game. So from there, the decks queue back and forth. Last year, standing, when you lose with a deck, you're not allowed to play it anymore, and the player that won has to keep playing the same deck. So the format is very much about counter queuing. Whatever deck you win with, your opponent knows you're going to play it. They're going to try and bring something that's good against it. However, that's not what happened this series. Dog's Burn Mage comes in Game 3 and wins 4 games in a row. Right? It turns out, when you control the board early, then play an Ice Block, then Alex your opponent and throw burn spells at their face, you're able to remove a lot of the interactivity of the game. Dog takes down Elemental Tempo Rogue, Dog takes down Taunt Warrior, takes down Control Warlock, takes down Murloc Paladin, only loses to Tempo Shaman, or to Token Shaman, and only because they evolve into a Nerubian Unraveler, which stops all the spells from coming down. Tempo Rogue gets queued up, counters the Token Shaman, lots and lots of early game, turn 4, 6/6 Edwin. Devolve is not enough to stop the Scalebane that comes down next turn. Cairn keeps it on, and Shaman does not even get a foothold. They have a very awkward draw, and G2 goes down at 6-2. Tough loss for Dog and Tice and Nyria, but Team Liquid moves on, and Dog wins, I think, 5 of the 6 matches for Liquid, which is very impressive. So then the next match, we've got Complexity Gaming versus Tempo Storm. Now we start off with Eloise playing a Taunt Warrior, beating a Tempo Rogue, but it actually loses to Murloc Paladin, because Murloc Paladin, believe it or not, good against Taunt Warrior because you just get to swell the board so fast, put pressure on, and you're resistant to a lot of damage-based removal thanks to double Cold Lights here. Now, they queue back and forth. Taunt Warrior beats Tempo Rogue, loses to Murloc Paladin. Murloc Paladin loses to Zoo, and Trump SC Zoo comes in hot. There are vicious fledglings that come in that do a lot of work. There are 2 games in a row where an early fledgling is protected, not dealt with, and it just stomps. And Zoo takes a win over Control as well. It queues up against Control Warlock, and you might think Control Warlock would beat it, but no, Vicious Fledgling on turn 2 does not care about your removal. So, Token Shaman doesn't really stand up either, and it took a Hunter to challenge Trump SC's Warlock, and the Hunter only was able to win by a very odd draw. Slow play for the first 4 turns. Turn 3, Hero Power Face is the only play that Mr. Yagut plays, but it turns out that they were playing the old school combo of Knife Juggler Unleash the Hounds, and that was really, really powerful against the Zoo deck. You was able to clear almost the entire board, and it turns out that when you're able to clear their entire board and generate threats yourself, it's good enough. Now, it seems like it's almost not good enough until Tundra Rhino, the hero, comes to save us from Zoo, because Tundra Rhino into Rat Pack and Houndmaster is able to seal up the game. Very impressive. But Hunter was self-banned for a reason, and it wasn't really good enough against Tempo Rogue, which came back. That got countered by Burn Mage. Murloc Paladin countered right back, and it locked up a win for Tempo Storm 6-3. That's the first half of our games here. There are 2 more series. The next one is one of the craziest series I've ever seen. This is 10 games in 4.5 hours. I blame Stan Sifka. Oh my lord, it was crazy. And Stan Sifka, Pokervac, and George C. all like control decks. And they get it here. The first game, Mage Mirror, goes to double fatigue. 35 minutes long. Strap yourself in. Both teams kind of spend the first few turns setting up there, but Virtus Pro gets a Jaina, and they get it on turn 10, and Misfits don't see their Jaina until the very end of the game, so they have to draw cards, whereas Virtus Pro doesn't. So, eventually, Stan Sifka is down 6 cards in the fatigue race. He can't be down 6 cards in the fatigue race. So, they have to defensively Alex. One team gets to offensively Alex, the other team gets to defensively Alex. It's all wrapped up. But to counter Burn Mage, Stan Sifka brings Dead Man's Hand Warrior. If you thought the 35-minute fatigue match was crazy, the next game is 40 minutes. We're looking at the control deck lineup to end all control deck lineups. Now I'm not gonna spend too much time narrating Dead Man's Hand, but Dead Man's Hand won 2 games in an hour, and then lost to another 20-minute game against Tempo Rogue, which had tons of early pressure, and then a crazy Leroy Shadow Step into Leroy Deckhand kill. It took a while. Jeez Louise. So that was 4 games in 2 hours, and then we get the Tempo Rogue Mirror. That comes back up to kind of counter it. It gets Virtus ahead. There's a couple, I win a game, then you counter Q and win a game, then I counter Q and win a game. Control Warlock were in there, N'Zoth Warrior were in there. But then Virtus Pro lands on Evolve Shaman and is able to take the series 6-4. But again, very tight series, worth watching. It's going to take some time to get through all of that. And finally, our last match, Planet Odd versus Team Love You Lots. It's Team Love You Lots, also known as Team Lull. Love watching those guys. It's Chalky, Zalay, and Muzzy. They have the best team dialogue. Really funny to listen to. They think about a lot of stuff, and it will make you a better player to listen to them, but they're also total memers. So we start off with the back and forth as expected, but then Planet Odd catches a break with Tempo Rogue, and they get 3 mid-series wins. Their list is actually kind of interesting. It plays both Cobalt Scalebane and Bittertide Hydra, very much teched against more slow decks, against more control decks, which you're more likely to see in this diverse format, because they knew people had to bring Mage, they knew people had to bring Warrior, and all these slower control decks don't really deal with Cobalt Scalebane and Hydra and all the late game stuff. So Team LUL actually counters some weird decks. They actually have a deck I'm going to call Big Fish Paladin, because it's like a big Paladin, except it has Murlocs in it. They've got Vilefin Inquisitor, Rockpool Hunter, Murloc Warleader, and then Rag Lightlord, Lich King, Tyrion, Uther, Curator. It's a weird deck, but it was a lot of fun, and it surprisingly won a game, but wasn't able to win more than one. Tempo Rogue does really well for Planet Odd. Surrender gets them to match point, and then Muzzy switches in, plays their Tempo Rogue to avoid being eliminated, but then Hoy switches in, plays his Control Paladin, stabilizes it for life, but all of a sudden is able to switch to the aggressor and put up taunt after taunt after taunt. Team LUL is not able to deal with it, and Planet Odd wins it 6-4. So it was a pretty crazy week. We've got 2 more matches we're going to cover on Tuesday. They actually have already been played. The last one finished today, a few hours before this recording, and we're going to share those with you on Tuesday. But we do have the top 4 cut. Out of the 8 teams, 4 of them were 4-3, and 4 of them were 3-4. So it's a clean break. Planet Odd, Team Liquid, Virtus Pro, and Complexity will move on to the semis, which are on December 8th. And Team LUL, the Misfits, G2, and Tempo Storm were eliminated. They went 3-4. They will not be joining us for the next round. So that's going to be December 8th. Before that, we have DreamHack Sweden on December 1st. And before that, we have nothing because new cards are coming. So be aware, we will not have a lot of tournament news after next week until after DreamHack on the 1st, which should be the last tournament before the new cards come out. That's what we're expecting. And then the Trinity Top 4 will start on the 8th. Phew.
And then there's also the Australian Hearthstone Invitational right around on the 10th.
Yes, that's
right?
the weekend of the 9th and 10th. Yep,
Yeah.
and that's also the one we talked about last week where they said specifically new cards will be legal for this event. Now, they didn't say the set will be out. They said all legal cards from the new set will be allowed. So we don't know what that means, but there's a lot of rumor milling that December 7th is probably when this set is going to come out.
Can we just all, everybody listening, just give a thanks to Hap for going through those hours and hours of all of the all of those matches there, because that was a lot of work that he put in to summarize, and that nice brief summary that was very good.
Thanks, buddy.
My theory is he actually did it in his sleep. So I don't know when he had time to do that.
What's a sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
but it's cool to see that just how close all of these teams are. If you look, 4 teams went 4-3, 4 teams went 3-4. You can't really have much closer than that in terms of how the teams finished. And I think it's kind of cool that Complexity went from, I believe they were the team that had the 3-0 start and then had a really terrible 3 weeks to be 3-3 and be on the verge of not making it. And they ended up winning their last week so that they could make it to the top 4 cut.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool success stories in here, and every single player involved in this tournament these are all super high level competitors. I strongly recommend, if you have the time, watching these. You get to hear players' thought processes out loud. It's a rare thing to really get that kind of insight into what a team of high level players are thinking, and every single thought they have is dialed in and you hear it on stream. It's made me better just by listening to all of this stuff. I strongly recommend, if you really want to understand how to get into people's heads and learn what the high level players are thinking, there's not really a better way to do it than go to a place where they have to share it, because there are all 3 of them processing this out loud. You'll see them. The reason these matches are so long is because they're roping every turn and talking and thinking. So just a good way to kind of absorb outside information. And usually when a streamer plays, sometimes they'll talk about what they're doing. Other times they'll just snap play a card, and they might make light of a situation. When you have to run everything you're doing by 2 other people, you get to hear the unfiltered full version of what's going on. The amount of time these teams spend thinking ahead is insane. They spend so much time thinking turn after turn after turn ahead. What happens if they do this? What happens if they do this? What about if they do this? What about this option? What about that option? It's mind-boggling, and listening to George C. calculate percentages in like a tenth of a second is unreal. Like, he talks in one game about, well, if this happens and this happens, we lose, but it's a 1 out of 210. It's like, what? How did you calculate that while you were talking? I don't understand. It's really amazing.
And I liked listening to some of Team Lol's games where they're like, okay, so we're definitely losing this game, but what cards can we play to maximize the number of cards that our opponent plays? Because we're going to have to play against this deck again, and we want to know, we would much rather know 28 out of their 30 cards instead of 25 out of their 30 cards, because those last 3 cards can make a difference. Or there was a game, I think last week, where they were like, okay, well, we have lethal this turn, but we don't want to show them fireball because we have all of these other cards in here that maybe our opponents might think that we don't have fireball because we fit all this other stuff in, so we can kill them next turn guaranteed and not let them have this information for the next game. There's it's nice that they kind of have to all talk to each other, because you kind of know that when they're playing a one-on-one match, all of this stuff is still going through their head, but they don't have to vocalize it. So, having them have to vocalize it to each other, there's a lot of really good learning moments, as you said.
I think that's a big takeaway for this, especially for our listeners. Let's say if you don't really catch these live, it may be beneficial to go back and look at some of these VODs, and we'll throw them in the show notes and everything too. But it's a really good learning experience. Again, we're trying to make the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. So hopefully us going over this is very helpful. So.
And also, as Matt at Arms says in chat, the caster memes were epic, because they were.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of good ones, like the Throwdown eating popcorn, and they have the casters like in between the two teams as they're talking, and the Admirable and Throwdown are just like looking up at the top guys as they're talking, and then as soon as they switch to the other team, they start looking down and are like nodding, and yeah, it was great.
They
Did
definitely
bring
have
out
a
the
lot of
popcorn
fun.
when they were doing these 40-minute games.
Oh yeah, just the popcorn, and it's like spilling out the side of his mouth as he's just eating it. It's great.
Yeah, it's this is second only to Seat Story for me in fun casting. They really enjoy what they're doing, and they start to get a little loopy because some of these days they're casting 2 matches and it's 8 hours. So like it's at the end of the Team LOL Planet Odd match. That was after the crazy Misfits Virtus match. They're on hour number 8 by that last game, so they start to get a little loopy, and it is our benefit.
All right. Well, thank you for that. That was really good. Every time you do something, you take another step up. You're just awesome.
Soon I'll be able to reach the top shelf.
Wah, wah. Only those of you that have met him in person will get that. But
yes, for those of you that don't know me, I'm very small.
He's not small. He's just vertically challenged.
I'd prefer small. That's more honest.
Small body, big personality.
Yeah, we'll go with that. There you go. But I guess I'm gonna carry you around with me so you can tell people that.
I think I'd be the one carrying you around, if anything.
Yeah, that's probably more accurate. All right, let's move on.
Let's do it.
All right. Do we have I don't know if you're very bumperific here. Do we have one for the thank yous, or we know? I would just move on to
Rock is dead.
All right. So I'll go ahead and cover them. You guys have been talking a lot. Bonix is going over the deck explanation. So thank yous. We do have a challenge. Again, this is for the coaching. So if you leave an iTunes review, this is actually from earlier this month. So we're still going to count this. We may have to extend it another week or two because some of these we get a little bit late. But no iTunes reviews this week. We did have a Stitcher review by Sargani. How would you pronounce it?
I'd say Sargoni, but I don't know if that's correct. It's just how I say it in my head.
No, I'm not going to butcher it any worse. So they titled it "This Show Improved My Game." As they said, I used to only be an angry chicken guy, but a friend recommended your show to me. It's totally awesome, and I listen to it weekly for over a year now. I'm finally taking time away from my gaming to let you guys and lady know how much I appreciate your show. You rock. I recommend your show to any level of Hearthstone player. I started out at the 18 to 16 ranks each season, and now enjoy living in the 10 to 6 ranks after listening to your strategy. Keep it up. Thanks for producing so much content for me and to enjoy on my 45-minute commute. I admire you all. I guess he's playing us at double speed.
Or he's playing half of it on the way there, half of it on the way back.
That's true. We could do it that way. Either way, he's enjoying it. We like to hear that. So if you'd like to still be a part of this raffle for the coaching, the free coaching, if you're not already in as a patron, this would be a cool raffle to get involved and possibly win. So head over there and do it right now. Let's go into our Dexplanations with Modicus.
All right, so this week we're going to go over a topic that has never been talked about before anywhere else in the past ever. We're going to talk about the cost of playing to play Hearthstone. And I'm saying that very facetiously because it kind of seems like that topic always comes up whenever a new set's announced. And yeah, so I kind of wanted to go over some things. And the biggest takeaway from this is just that, the cost of Hearthstone is kind of different for everyone. Everybody plays this game. Every single person plays the game differently, and there's a lot of factors that goes in to making the game worth it to you. And I put in some bullet points for us to talk about. PC Gamer just came out with an article that deals with coping with the cost of Hearthstone, and it details kind of all of the different things you can do to make Hearthstone kind of more affordable for you and your situation. Blister Guy actually had one of his infographics featured in this article, which was sweet to see.
I was gonna say that I saw that in the article. I was like, that's gotta be his. It can't be anybody else's.
Yeah, so that was cool to see. And basically, I kind of was doing some research, and I typed in the cost of Hearthstone into the search bar, and kind of the first thing that came up was that it says it costs about $700 or $670 to get 90% of the cards that come out in 2017 for Hearthstone. That's a $200 increase compared to what it would have cost last year. And that sounds like a lot, and that is a lot. And also there's other things going on, like thankfully the Battle.net store just updated Canadian pricing today, and so it was looking like people in Canada were actually going to be paying a lot more for packs coming up in the next set, but they updated it, so it's actually a little slightly under the US prices, which is nice. But
oh, really? Because I thought it was different. I thought it was Canada, Japan, and was it Australia?
I know that
Canada.
No, I know that Canada was saying that it was much higher, but literally today they updated the store pricing. So better for Canada, but unfortunately the prices in the UK and the EU went up significantly. But it
was New Zealand. So Canada, Japan, New Zealand are today the 16th. But I thought it was saying it was increasing. Let's see. I'll look into that a little bit. I'll let you continue.
Okay. But anyway, just some of the things I wanted to note, because there are, since in this new release of sets, they added essentially 3 legendaries to the total pool, which because before they would only have 1 legendary in each for each class, and then they'd have about 11 neutral legendaries, but now they have 2 legendaries for each class, and they reduced the number of neutral legendaries down to like 5. So that is more legendaries out there, but at the same time, they also, they made it so that there's no more duplicate. You can't get duplicate legendaries anymore,
which is a smart
So-
change, I think.
Yeah, I think it was a great change, and then also, I know they did it with Cthulhu, and I don't know about kind of the other sets, but recently, obviously they've been kind of giving us a free legendary with each of the new sets, which I think will actually make a big difference. I mean, just think about in 3 more set releases if they continue to do this where they give us a free legendary, because they gave us the free Death Knight and they're going to give us a free weapon. They gave you the free everybody the free Mare and the Fox, but we're not sure 100% if we're going to be able to disenchant that or not. But in another year's time, if they continue on this stretch, then a new player coming in is going to be able to come in and get all of those free legendaries. I think you're going to be able to actually, if you kind of disenchant all of that, you're probably going to be pretty close to being able to make a one competitive, competitive ladder deck.
That's something I never really thought about for the players that may have taken a break or are just starting to play. I think that's a good aspect that they should have added, and maybe a while ago. I think it's a good change. To go take a step back here, I did pull up, and you're right. They were saying that it was specifically looking at Canada. Players are charged about $39 US dollars at the current exchange rates for the pre-expansion. So it looks like some of them are actually cheaper. So
yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So anyway, I hear this game I hear Hearthstone compared to a lot of other games, but kind of, I guess, full disclosure. Basically, for every new set that comes out, I'm usually pre-order the 50 packs, and then I get one of the $70, the 60 pack bundles, and that's all I bought for this last set after basically having started in Ungoro, and I play a lot, but without playing too much Arena, I can play pretty much every deck in Standard, and I plan on kind of doing the same thing when the next set comes out. And I'm actually assuming that after this one, I probably won't even need to continue that amount of spending. But for me, it's worth it to spend that kind of money, because when I was playing Magic, I would go to the pre-release weekends, and I played a lot of pre-releases, which were $25 each, and they would do they would do 5 of them in a weekend. I'd usually do every single one of them, and that's just in essentially the opening weekend. I'm spending the same amount that I spent on Magic as I am on Hearthstone, but the amount of cards I'm getting in Hearthstone is significantly larger portion of the set than I would get in Magic. But the actual thing I thought I would compare it to would be, if you look at other mobile games, I actually have a link in here of the cost to play, for instance, high level Clash of Clans. So if you look at what the top, 200 to 500 players in Clash of Clans spend, they're spending $2,000 a month to play that game. And if you spent $2,000 a month in Hearthstone, you would quickly run out of cards to be able to craft. You would probably have every single card in golden on your account. So
That's crazy.
yeah, I mean, yes, the game is more expensive than it used to be, but at the same time, you know, uh, it's how much is it worth it to you? I was trying to kind of figure out what percentage of cards in an expansion are actually used in high level competitive play, and I was kind of just counting them out from Hearthstone top decks, and it looked like about a third of the cards were actually, used in top tier competitive decks. So even though it says, you know, $670 a year to get 90% of the Hearthstone cards, if you're looking to, even if you're just looking to play like in high level Legend Ladder and you want 3 or 4 decks, you don't need to spend, I feel like you don't need to spend near that amount of money. I really honestly feel like if you
I'm the
put
same way.
if you put some time into the game and you set aside approximately $15 a month, I would say, that gets you a little more than your pre-order every season. And as long as you keep up with your daily quests and stuff, I think you can definitely build 2 or 3 competitive decks every season if you kind of pre-plan. I don't know. Do you
I think that's highly reasonable. 670 again, kind of to back up what you're saying, it seems a little bit hefty. I don't think I spend that much a year, but then again, I'm an enthusiast and I like playing. So we may play more than what people do. So I don't know if there are players out there that are just completionists and just buy a ton of packs just to make sure that they have everything they need. So when they do play, they can just throw a deck together. But I'm the same way. My goal is actually getting back up to about the amount I have for every expansion. I get about anywhere between 7,000 and 8,000 gold, I'd say. And that's for me. I don't play as much as you, I think, but I do notice that I'm noticeably smaller with my dust this expansion. So I'll be curious to see what is from there. So
yeah, I guess that's kind of the cost of having sweet cards. Like if you look at the playable legendaries, there's 5 to 6 of the Death Knights that are pretty much, staples in their classes decks. But then if you look at the other class legendaries, all of those legendaries pretty much don't see any play outside of very niche situations, which I think is kind of a pretty good balance to where you want stuff. I really want their kind of marquee cards to be mostly played in their class decks because it kind of gives them their identity and it gives you something exciting for your class. But the the second legendary, I don't necessarily know that has to be included in each of the decks, because then it obviously increases the cost by definitely a significant amount. My biggest kind of takeaway is that I understand that the game is more expensive, but at the same time, I want to be giving the Hearthstone developers, money, and I'm sure that they've done the market research to know exactly kind of where the point is, how much they're actually able to charge, and the retention rate of players. I don't know. I feel like I kind of had a bunch of disjointed thoughts in there, but
true. Shall we hear from Hat?
Yeah. What do you have to say, Hat?
I have some thoughts. I know that's out of character, but I have some thoughts. I've been trying as hard as I can to think about this from not my own perspective, because I am a lifelong card player, a lifelong game hobbyist investor, and I've had the luxury of being able to invest disposable income in a game. Now, if you want to play any game, and you want to do it completely for free, it takes a large investment of a frustrating amount of time. So Hearthstone is marketed as free to play. I think there's a lot of people that are not going to be the target audience for long-term players. If you open it on your phone every once in a while, you got it for free, you want to play it like Candy Crush. At a certain point, you're not. If you want to play past rank 20 and you're looking at a casual experience, it's not going to be the game that feels as rewarding if you're not investing time and money on it, if it's not the one of the primary games you play. To make it one of the primary games you play as a new player is incredibly difficult if you don't have capital to invest in the startup cost. The startup cost gets bigger every time they put out a new set. And it's easy for us to think about. I'm at the same place as you, Bodicus. I have perpetual dust buildup where I open enough cards and I have enough cards that a new set, usually that pre-order, will do just fine for me with a few packs here and there. And so usually when Amazon coins go on sale, I'll invest a chunk when they're 20% off, and that'll pay for my next pre-order and a few extra cards, and that'll do me for the set. And when I open my free packs in Tavern Brawl and grind all my gold, I'll have enough to not be wanting for cards and to be able to craft legendaries if I need to make them. But that is an outlier. We are not the people that are going to experience this as a problem because, first of all, we've invested already, so we're going to view the game a little differently, and we don't have to start from the beginning when now there's multiple years of established sets. And I'm not even talking about Wild, because Wild right now is cost prohibitive to get into, but if you were to start right now, you'd have to buy Karazhan the Adventure, which that'll go away next year, but you have to buy Karazhan if you want those cards at all. You can't even craft them. You have to buy a bunch of classic cards. You have to get Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, which rotates out shortly. You have to get Whispers of the Old God cards, which rotate out shortly. You don't get any dust for those cards back. And you have to make Ungoro cards, and you have to make KFT cards, and a new set comes out next month. I don't think it's unreasonable for someone to be upset about the amount of money they have to invest. And if you invest a smaller amount of money, you might be able to build one deck. What happens if you get tired of that deck, or it stops winning, or it's not fun to play anymore? That's going to turn people off. If you were able to build just Zoo, and then it's like, well, I can either spend another $150 or just play only Zoo every time I queue up a ladder game. That's not how we look at the game, and I think forcing someone else to look at that game until they pay their dues and earn their way to the next deck that they can play, I don't blame people for being frustrated with that, especially if they live out of the US. And right now, the conversion rate means that where it's $2.99 for us to buy 2 packs, it's $3.99 for them to buy 2 packs. We're talking, what, a 25% increase, no, 33% increase on price. It's pretty unreasonable. Now, you still have to look at the game as kind of an investment of time and a reflection on the amount of time you get out of the money, not out of the amount of physical stuff you get. Because if you view it as $50 every so often, it's kind of $50 every 3 months or 4 months as a subscription to Hearthstone, I buy that. And I'm all about the subscription service. You pay enough every month, you save up money so that every 4 months you can do the pre-order. You're probably doing fine. As long as you do your quests and play your tavern brawls and do all the free pack promotions they have, they are making it easier for us. But the reason they have to make it easier for us is because I bet they're seeing exit points where new players are not able to keep up, and they have to do something to keep them engaged. And I think Dungeon Run is actually the best thing they've done for this yet, or will do for this, the single-player content.
And not only that, but I think now is like the worst time too. Like you were just mentioning, there's a lot of set stuff that you're requiring right now to be competitive. As far as the adventures, so I think they're getting away from the adventures costing money. So we're right on that blip of where once those become no longer part of standard, then the entry point for standard is going to be much lower.
Well, but in exchange for that, you have another set with 120 cards and
True.
20 legendaries, or 25 legendaries.
Yeah.
It's not better, it's different. You can
But I
craft
think
more
what we're-
specifically.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're trying to make a point here with this is you can be really smart and not be reactive to the initial couple weeks that the set's out. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great card. I'm going to craft it. Wait a moment, let it settle for a little bit. Be smart with what you're doing, especially if you're really being a budget player. So we're trying to keep an open mind to those players that are along those mindsets. Not saying that it's bad,
Sure.
It's just different than ours. And we have to kind of take a step back and think about, what it was like when we first started playing Hearthstone. It was so long ago.
Well, also,
it's something that's not in the front part of our minds. Go
Think
ahead.
about queuing up with the same deck that you've been playing because the deck you can afford, and then the first week, the second week of the expansion, everyone's playing with these cool new cards, and you see them and you want them, and you have to say, well, I can be disciplined and keep playing the deck I have until I know what's good, but you don't get to play with the same toys as the kids down the block. It's
True.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of issues here of perception and emotion, and we can look at it logically and say there are ways around it. And yes, there are, but they're not fun ways, and Blizzard needs to work on a way to catch people up a little better if their collection is behind, because the biggest issue we have here is that the budget players, once they get established, that pre-order will be enough if you do it once a set, but getting established, every time they put a new set out, that gets harder and harder and harder. And so you have to make sure Blizzard has to do something, and we'll talk about this a little bit in the ladder design, to reward players that are lacking in their collections or to find a way to give more recurring rewards to players because the game is getting more expensive in terms of volume over time. And this happens to any game with collectible stuff. You have to collect more things to have all the things, but the rewards haven't really scaled. The quests have gotten a little bit better, but they're still a reflection of time. And they're giving away a few more free things, right? Few more packs, few more adventures here and there. Again, I think Dungeon Run will be awesome because that's single player repeatable content where you don't need to own cards to play it. That is going to be the saving grace for a lot of new players. It's a totally free mode. Anytime you get burned out by standard, you don't feel like you have the cards, go into Dungeon Run and you build the deck and you get to play with all of these cards. Tavern Brawl helps a lot too. But I really want Blizzard to find a way to recognize it's not about the perpetual players, it's about the entry. The entry is best at the beginning of a new set, but if you were to enter, not even now, next month, if you get a Blizzard gift card and you want to enter Hearthstone for the first time around Christmas, you've got 6 sets to catch up on. And even if you replace Karazhan as an adventure with a new set, if you've got 6 sets and the classic set, you've got all those sets to catch up on. I think it's fair to say that's a daunting investment to make. And so I understand where we're coming from that we can kind of subscribe to Hearthstone, but we don't have to drop a big amount of money in the beginning to make sure we're at that point. And so I'm amenable to the concerns that people have about Hearthstone's first time cost. I think that's really important to recognize, and it's an unaddressed issue. I'm a big fan of Team 5 and what they've done to make the game more accessible, but they've still got some work to do when they're putting out all this great new content. People want to play with the new toys, and they don't get to unless they've made that initial investment, and it gets a little bigger every time they put out new cards.
Yeah, I guess it's also interesting my point of view because I came from Magic. So when I came to Hearthstone again, basically, because I essentially started with Ungoro, I kind of came in and I was just like, well, in Magic you have all this upfront cost just to get into it. So in Hearthstone, I just kind of assume that there's the same thing there. So that's what I did when I came in. I kind of draw over the course of a couple months. I think I probably dropped close to $300-400, but that was because my intent was to get to legend right away. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be the cost of entry to get me into being able to make a few decks to hit legend. But I see a couple people in chat actually bringing up some good points that I've heard. Yeah. I've heard other places that, the idea of pre-constructed decks, I think, is definitely a avenue that Team 5 could look at to really help that with that barrier to entry. If you could go in and buy a pre-constructed deck that had 4 epics and 2 legendaries or whatever for a set amount of price, and just kind of get in that way, while hopefully not being able to abuse the system where you could just buy them and then dust the cards.
Exactly. So that I was going to say, for those that already have the cards, or maybe you if you already have them, you can't dust them, just to get around the way of around them abusing the system, but yet catching those people up for the current content. So that's a good point.
Yeah, it's I agree with
it's
you,
very
Bob,
complex.
Well, and the initial investment thing, I came from Magic too. Hearthstone is an order of magnitude cheaper. One single deck in Magic is $400, if not more. In some formats, it's way more. And you can resell Magic cards sometimes, but you get to invest in one deck, and that's your deck, unless you were able to spend a lot of money and have a bunch of cards. And I was shocked when I first came to Hearthstone that I made that same kind of investment by selling a lot of my Magic cards and reinvesting in Hearthstone. And for $400, I had every deck. I had everything.
Yeah.
You could play 10, 20, 30 decks, and those cards the classic cards don't rotate out the same way. It felt like a revelation. But if you come from Call of Duty or StarCraft or some game that isn't subscription, you just buy it and you have it. And that model might be going away a little bit in the world, but if you're used to a different kind of game or a phone game, which is a market that Hearthstone is being marketed towards, it's one of the most downloaded apps in the Android App Store. If you're marketing towards that, the perception of cost is very different. And a lot of people get into Hearthstone almost by accident. And then the investment cost is very steep and perceived super differently by a market that's not used to paying that much money for games. So it really is a huge matter of emotion and perception. And if you're willing to make Hearthstone your main game, you will 100% get value out of the money that you spend. A lot of time, a lot of value. But
and that was another thing I wanted to bring up, is just that, they're creating 3 sets every year. That is a huge amount of content, even though it doesn't seem like that much, because it's just like, oh, here's 135 cards and we don't really have to change the coding of the game by that much, and there's not that much there. But the amount of effort that it takes to create an idea and make the game feel differently whenever they release 135 cards, and not just releasing the same type of thing over and over again, is it's that to me is what makes it worth it to spend the money. Because whenever a new set comes out, it feels like a new game. It feels like they're not just doing the same thing over and over again. And that might change in the future, and I hope it doesn't. But that's where the difference in value makes it up for me specifically. And go ahead, Kenny.
I was just gonna. I didn't mean you to stop early there. I wanted you to finish, but
I didn't really have much to go after that.
Okay, well, what we were thinking about. So what you got me thinking about was the different type of, or Hat was talking about mobile platform and how certain game platforms and how they make money is going to go away. I was taking a look at some of the other Blizzard games and things like Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm, and actually the Greenspeed in chat is actually along the same lines of what I was thinking, comparing it to Heroes of the Storm. So he was saying maybe even have like a rotating theme pack, like something to boost people that don't have those cards, to have it free for this amount of time, or this week is this set. And if maybe have it for quote unquote sale, and so there would be like a dragon deck. So you have Alexstrasza, Nosdormo, Nixia, Giants, and different things like that. Or you could have they could literally sell the pirate package, as we talk about. So very interesting thought process. But I was thinking more along the lines of like an actual deck recipe, like they have in the game already, but have it be something that they can try out for free and try it before they actually spend the dust or gold to get those cards. That would be a nice compromise, I would say. Something to get people hooked a little bit more. But I don't know how much time and effort that would take. Who knows? Any last thoughts before we move on? I know we wanted to go over some of the emails. I'll take that as a no.
I don't really have anything.
So I think we were going to cover one main question, at least, because we're getting a little bit long here. Hat, you want to play this is our email section. We got this from Steven Sensei. So play it away. All right. So Steven Sensei sent in a simple, short question that may not be short in answering, but he said, what would a redesign of ladder look like for you? I'm going to skip Hat first. I'm going to go with Bonicus.
Okay. Smart move.
So I haven't thought about this as much as most other people, and that's mainly because I kind of like where ladder's at, and maybe that's just because I'm weird and I'm kind of newer ish to it. But a lot of people kind of complain about how big the drop is. When you start over a new month, like when you start or when you end a month at legend and you go all the way back to rank 16. I like the feeling of climbing and progressing back up through those ranks. And while I think it kind of sucks for other players because all of the rank 5 players and all of the rank 10 players kind of get dropped off in a very similar area, and they have to play people significantly better than their skill level at that area. It's not ideal, but I feel a sense of accomplishment still every time when I uh, get get back climbing up the ladder. But I do think there were some interesting points because this wasn't actually in the questions for the cast section. This was in the Hearthstone chat section. There was a lot of really good discussion in there about different things they could do. I think the one that caught my attention the most was actually changing it from like a rank system to having names more like they do in StarCraft. So you have like your bronze level, your silver, gold, platinum, and master level players. I know when I was playing StarCraft ages ago, I was a platinum level random player, and that felt um, that felt good to be able to say that. I wasn't at the super high end master level, but I was like, a I'm a reasonable, even though I wasn't very good at all because I just played random, but I was like a reasonable level, you know, player because I could say, I'm platinum. Whereas when you tell somebody, oh yeah, I hit rank 5 in Hearthstone every month, people that you tell that to, it doesn't mean anything to them. It as doesn't feel as special. So I kind of like the idea of keeping ladder somewhat similar to how it is now, maybe making it a little bit easier to get back to where you were the last season. But I like people to have to play Hearthstone. I want people to, if they want to make that investment in, being a Hearthstone player, I want you to actually have to put time into it. And unfortunately not everybody has the time to be able to put in like I do. So my situation is way different than other people's. But I don't know, what do you think, Hat? Do you have a better idea of what they could do to ladder to make it different?
So I think the biggest problems with ladder are the rewards don't really match the time investment. The grind of getting back to the level you were at is a little longer than I'd like. I agree with you. I don't think it should be eliminated because I actually like the idea of making the climb a little faster or seeing how well you can do with a different deck. I think ladder as it stands is actually an interesting challenge as long as you don't set an artificially high goal and then struggle to reach it and get frustrated at that. But part of that is in the naming system. So Not Rob, I think, was the one who suggested that in our chat, and I agree with him 100% that the rank system doesn't send the right message. It doesn't indicate how hard it is to get to rank 5. It doesn't indicate how good an average rank 5 player is. And I think there's something to be said for a rebranding of ladder, but I don't want to dramatically reduce the number of games it takes to get to legend. I want that to be a very difficult accomplishment, and I want to players that hit rank 5 for the first time. It takes them 400 games. Okay, can I do it in 300? Okay, can I do it with my worst class? Okay, can I do it, in wild? I like the idea of making that climb again. So I think a moderate increase in bonus stars would make sense. I don't like the idea of dropping one floor. I'm thinking about the idea of dropping 2 floors. That like if you hit legend, you drop to rank 10 instead of rank 16. If you hit rank 5, you drop to rank 15, etc. A small increase in the amount of bonus stars. I don't think you need to double them, but I think I get close. I do think that they should award the ranked chests when you hit the floor each time you get there. So like if you hit rank 15, you get a 15 chest right away. If you hit rank 10, you get a 10 chest right away. If you hit rank 5, you get a 5 chest right away. You hit legend, you get a legend chest right away. It's not end of month. It's as soon as you get there, here's your immediate gratification. And also we're introducing more money into the game so that you can get your cards more easily and reward your skill and your progression. I think that'd be a really elegant way to make the players feel a little bit better about how they rank up, and also provide a good goal for people to hit, and would make the cost of entry of the game a little bit lower if you're able to grind with a cheaper deck. Then you get rewarded with all these golden cards that you get to immediately dust. I think just adding the number of chests that people get would kind of get the game closer to a daily login and a daily addiction mechanic that I think would also benefit Hearthstone as a game. Um, and someone mentioned this. I forget who mentioned this in chat, but they said change the name of casual to unranked. I think there's no reason they shouldn't do that. It's a much better name.
Yeah, that is just a significantly better name.
I like it. It would be a good addition to the rework. You made a good point. That would and you hit across a couple points I was thinking about. Instead of falling down to the amount of ranks is per star, you go back to those rank floors. So like it, legend will go back to 5, but you're taking it down to 2 levels below. I think I would agree with that a little bit more than what I was originally thinking. And then getting those chests is actually very more beneficial for those that are lower on ladder and get to those different chests as they go up, because they have the potential to get more when legend is only going down to rank 10, so they only get the rank 5 and the legend chests. So they really don't need to, because they're playing more. Well, I say they, I mean generally. I'm sure there's people that fit that and don't play many games, but and don't have the amount of time to play, but still meet legend status. The other part, I do like the names, kind of like they were comparing to StarCraft, but I still like the gratification of knowing. I don't, for Hearthstone, I don't like the I like the stars to be a part of it still. I don't want the, what's the word I'm looking for? Your hidden
MMR.
MMR, that's what it is. I don't want it to be based solely on hidden MMR. And by the way, you want to tell listeners who don't know what MMR stands for?
Matchmaking rating.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's basically just a number that means how good you are, that Blizzard uses secretly, and every competitive game is used.
So I think I wouldn't go solely just for hidden MMR and then having your title. You may be able to have titles with the stars. Maybe they'll average the last several months of what you've finished at. I don't know. That may be just a couple ideas. I don't know if it really would affect anything. But I'm all for the falling 2 ranks and getting those golden packs after you reach those chests. So much. We have a good show. This is good. I liked it. Good talk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good. Well, there was a lot of other good questions that we unfortunately don't have time to get to today, but hopefully we can get to in the future.
I have just one question.
How long can this go on?
I think he's trying to tell us something. So if you want to get out of here, you can always send us an email to coinconcede@gmail.com. I did want to give thanks to Stefanel for letting us use his cover. You can check out his channel, which is linked on our show notes at coinconcede.com. Thanks to Old Guardian for the tournament statistics. That definitely helps out. His link is linked in our show notes. We're on Twitter at coinconcede. Facebook.com/coinconcede. We're there too. Discord.coinconcede.com is where you can find the majority of our talks. We do have a section for our questions you'd like to add to the show. We can pick and choose from. But the ones we got was actually just in our random talks. So it's very active, and I do like our Discord a lot. Keep an eye for changes with our merchandise store. We're working on some other stuff, so hopefully by the beginning of next year we'll have kind of everything revamped. We'll see how much time we have, but shop.coinconcede.com is what we have for now. If you'd like to pick up some of our merchandise. Did we get everything there? I think we did. Now, the biggest thanks of all is our producers. How could we not thank our producers? We have Variatis, Zach Mopko, Reganis Prime, Caleb CV, and now Luke S, which hopefully we'll have. I don't know if that's his gamer name, but if he has one, I'm sure we'll get it changed too. So thank you all for being our producers and for supporting us. We will look forward to being involved more and getting you involved with the community a little bit more in the near future here. So hopefully that'll be soon. Shout outs. I'm just reading my shout. Someone wrote a shout out for me, so I'll let Hat take it here.
So I'm going to give my shout out to a couple people. First of all, Mad at Arms was the one that came up with the name Unranked instead of Casual. Props to him. Second of all, big shout out to 1600 Dust and Dad Legend. They just opened their partner store. So the two of them are now working together to make some awesome merch. And 1600 Dust has a new logo, and it's really cool. And they also are now selling shirts. I think they're like $17 shirts. So go check it out. Dad Legend is run by Ben Reddington, wow.ben. He's a really cool dude. And then 1600 Dust, you know them. And if you don't, you should. And you should feel ashamed of yourself for not. So go check them out. They got a 20-minute podcast. You can easily fit it into your workday. Definitely good friends at the show.
All right,
love those guys. So I know we don't really do our coaching segments anymore, but I wanted to give a shout out to Lopana. I just did a coaching session with him earlier this week, and since I have not had the chance to play Marin the Fox, we got to do a session with he wanted to play single or Razakis Priest, but he was playing a Death Rattle version that had Marin the Fox in it, and we got to crack Marin the Fox in I think all 5 of the games that we played, and that was awesome. We got to summon two Malagos and
Malagai?
then two Malagos and
Malagis?
Holy Nova'd our opponent for 12. Ended up losing that game because it was against Quest Mage, but there was just a lot of fun stuff. So shout outs to Lopana because I had a lot of fun with that coaching session. What about you, Kenny?
Simple things like that makes it fun for us to go and coach. So I wanted to give a shout out to Marspad because he actually pinged me on the side. I remember when he wasn't even supporting us at all, but before he was on Twitter. He was one of our Twitter giveaways for free coaching. And so I ended up coaching him, and he kind of started becoming more and more a part of the community. Well, the whole reason why I'm shouting him out is because he wrote a super long, well-written email giving us the good, the bad, and the ugly about our podcast. And we appreciate feedback like that. I just shared it with everybody, and all of us could tell the amount of effort you took to go into detail with this, and appreciated everything you've done to include within that email. So it touched us. It really did. I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes,
really thank you. It was lots of stuff to take in there. That is great. Just, we thankfully get a lot of really positive feedback, but having the positivity in that email that also will be constructive for us in the future is just really good to have, so that our heads don't get too big.
Very insightful. So, Hat, what'd you think of it? I mean,
Marspad, you're great, and you should feel great. Thank you so much for the feedback. We're big fans of receiving any kind of feedback we can have, and we recognize the show has definitely changed directions a little bit. We've had a lot of recent casting changes, and we definitely want to focus on the future and not the past. But anything we can do in the present to make the future a little brighter anything that you think we can do a little differently, now is a great time to reach out, because we're really just trying to figure out what makes the best content, what makes you happier. And so feel free to let us know when we do something you like, and feel free to let us know when we do something you think could be done better.
Yeah, and a little golden nugget for the changes you actually hear or saw us do as a result of your feedback. So it's all to you. All right, let's go ahead, and I need to get to buying my my expansion. What do you call it? I can't even think of the name of it anymore. Pre-order, yes. I need to get to we need to get to doing that. So let's go ahead and end the show. Our contact information. Let's not forget that. All right, real quick here. Bodicus.
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at BodicusHS. And follow me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Bodicus. I've actually, been streaming about once a week now. And hopefully, actually next week, I'm going to have a bit of extra time. So hopefully I can stay in High Legend Ladder and give you guys some more good content on there.
All right, and Hat?
You can find me at twitter.com/ridiculoushat. You can find me at twitch.tv/ridiculoushat. I stream Monday nights and Thursday nights. In fact, in about 15 minutes from now, I should be streaming. So if you're listening to this in audio, this is not helpful, and I'll edit it out. But if you are looking to catch me on stream, it's Mondays 11 p.m. Eastern and Thursdays midnight Eastern, which I guess is technically Friday morning, but I trust you all to be smart enough to figure that out. And also, anywhere in Discord, it's speak my name, tag me, and I'll show up.
All right, and Cora's on Twitter at songbird_HS. Hopefully we can get her on again soon. Again, a reminder, next week we're going to be doing the show on Tuesday. And then you can find me also on Twitter at KCCO_gamer. That does it for the show this week, and I'm going to leave you with keep calm and chive on. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Take cold comfort in your victory. You win. I can rest now. You win. For now.
No, your victory proves nothing.
The day is yours.
I choose death.
You have triumphed.
This time, this hunt is yours.